Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens mistake regular Joe Schmo customers as employees. And in today's episode, guys, Karens are running wild again. They're getting arrested, lying left and right, and forgetting that store cameras exist. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. So my ex-wife was a school teacher, and as such, I always volunteered to help around the school and to help her and other teachers with things they needed help with, like artistic bulletin boards and such. One day, I took her to school and the staff had a meeting. I was replacing the artwork in the bulletin board near the front to match the current seasons and events before I go to work. I had my visitor badge on and everything, and that's when I encounter this crazy lady with her child. So the woman walks up to me and she says, "Here, take him to the cafeteria. I'm in a hurry." Now for context, you should know that in my country, unless it's your job, you can get into a lot of trouble if you agreed. I told her, "Lady, I don't work here, you'll have to take him in yourself," while pointing at my visitor badge, which she 100% ignored. She then proceeds to say, "You will take my child and escort him because I pay your salary." I then smiled and politely said again, "I don't work here, and no you don't." I then turned to continue working on the board, and that's when she grabbed me and spun me around, and my visitor badge hit her square in the eye. At that, she screams and yells and accuses me of assaulting her. So at the noise, the staff who just finished their meeting comes out, and my ex-wife and principal came toward us to ask what happened. At this point, the Karen was already on the phone with police, and she's accusing me of assaulting her. I then explained the situation to my ex and the principal and asked them to prepare the camera footage for police when they arrive. Karen's now screaming at the principal, demanding I get fired right on the spot. The principal keeps explaining that I don't work here and that I'm a volunteer who's married to one of the teachers, but she won't have it. So the police arrive and take our statements. The staff show them the video and it was clearly her fault. They then ask if I want to press charges and I say yes. She was then taken away in handcuffs, kicking and screaming, and she kicks one of the officers in the process, which adds to her charges. I heard she ended up with 6 months in prison and 500 hours of community service. Yeah, so I bet the lady regrets that decision, right? Also, why would you hand your child off to someone who you don't know that says they don't work at the school? Like, that terrifies me so much because anything could have happened at that point if she walked away. And as much as we love poking fun at Karens, I hate it when they endanger their own kids by being dumb and entitled. So, to set some context, I try to avoid big box retail stores for a variety of reasons. First, they don't train their people, so the guy who comes here for a living doesn't know where anything is. Second, they can't keep their people, so I don't know anybody and nobody knows me, and that makes the service suck. At the smaller places, your shopping experience is better and the money stays local. With that said, on to my story. So I like to pick up heavy things and put them down again. This occasionally needs supplies, and I occasionally do things outside like farmer's carries or stone carries and things like that. This means I have to drag a bunch of weight plates up the stairs from my basement, through the house, out to where I'm going to do what I'm doing, and then put them back again. My wife has lost her patience with this and told my cheap self to go buy a set of plates to keep in the garage for this purpose. I haven't been able to find any place near me that supplies them locally, so I'm forced to go to a big box sporting goods store. At the store, I decide on a set of grip plates. I pick them up and head to the register. I ask the young lady if I can just leave them there while I go get another pair. The cashier, who probably weighs about as much as the 2 plates I was carrying, asked me to put them on the unused counter to the one side of her, so she can keep ringing up the other customers and to come back to her when I was ready. So I get back to the heavy things section, grab 2 more plates, and head back for the register. I get there and realize that I should probably restock on tape, chalk, and other things for the outside section, so I don't have to run back and forth. I beg the cashier's indulgence for just a little longer, leaving 4 plates on an empty register and head back. As I'm passing the golf shirts, a wild Karen appears. She steps out from between the 2 racks directly in front of me, raises both of her hands to snap in my face, and she goes directly to screaming. Now, as you've probably guessed, I'm a good-sized guy, but I'm not so huge that you wonder if I can wipe my own bottom. But I'm definitely burly. I managed to stop without bowling this woman over, which may have been the most remarkable part of this interaction. Karen snapping her fingers, screaming in my face, "Excuse me, I need help right now." I tell her I don't work here, customer service is right over there. Karen then says, "Don't give me that horse crap. I saw you grabbing things for that girl at the counter. Now I need to know which one of these tennis rackets is the best, and you're gonna help me." I say to her, I don't work here, and all I do know about tennis comes from an Anna Kournikova calendar that I bought years ago. Again, customer service is right over there. At this point, Karen loses it. She says, "I've told you to stop lying to me. If you do it again, I'm gonna get you fired. Now you meet me by the tennis rackets in 30 seconds if you want to keep your job." I then decide to tell her I don't work here in Spanish. And she says, "What the heck does that mean?" I tell her it's I don't work here in Spanish. I figured there might be a language barrier now since I've told you 4 times and you just don't seem to get it. She then screams, "That's it, I'm getting your manager," and she stomps off. I finish grabbing what I need from the heavy things section and then head for the checkout. Of course, the one next to where I left the weights wasn't available, so I had to wait. And this gave Karen some time to catch up. Now from my description earlier, you can probably guess that I don't exactly blend in. I'm over 6 feet tall, well north of 300 pounds, have a bushy reddish-brown beard with gray streaks in it, and I'm wearing a black t-shirt with a picture of a Highland athlete on it that says, "It's not the length of his caber that makes him great, it's the weight of his stones." Now I'm describing that because there's nothing about me that says big box sporting goods employee. So Karen catches up, dragging a manager, shouting, "That's him. He maliciously refused to help me." To which the manager says, "Ma'am, he doesn't work here." Karen says, "Don't you give me that. I saw him helping that dumb girl by the register. And why would he do that if he doesn't work here?" Now the girl had a name tag and I'll call her Alice. I then say I wasn't helping Alice. I was asking her if I could leave these here while I got the rest of my stuff. Karen then says, "If you don't work here, how do you know her name?" I tell her she's wearing a name tag and you owe her an apology. Karen says I don't owe her an effing thing. If she wanted to be respected, she wouldn't work here. She should be apologizing to me for making me put up with this. She then turns to the manager, screaming at the top of her lungs, "I want both of them fired right now, right effing now, or I'm calling the police. I will have every single one of you arrested for assault, and you can't prove you didn't assault me." That's when the manager says, "Ma'am, you're standing under a camera. I can prove you weren't assaulted, but please feel free to call the police. It'll be a lot easier to fill out the trespass forms if you're still here, and you'll have plenty of time to read them when you're in jail for filing a false police report." At this point, Karen just screams, "F you. F all of you. I'm never coming back here again." To which the manager says, "I'll hold you to that this time." He then turns to me, apologizes, and gives me a coupon that I didn't know about for the weights, and I went on my way. Now that's not as dramatic as some stories on here where they get arrested, but still fun. Guys, I am shaking my head so hard. Like, why is it that Karens always resort to demanding police when they know they're lying? Like, especially when there's cameras around and they're making wild accusations of assault. And guys, I know I've always said that I want to see something like this in person, but the more stories I read, the more I realize that I don't want to see a Karen in public because it's pretty scary. Because you never know what they'll do. Like the Karen in this next story. Okay, so this day had started off as a good day until I went shopping at the local Safeway. Now usually I try to be quick and move on about my shopping with purpose, not lingering anywhere unless I have to, such as the case of pausing to read a label. Now I did pause to help one older lady who asked me politely if I could get something on the top shelf for her, and that was my mistake. I went back to my shopping when all of a sudden I hear ahem, excuse me, the call of the wild Karen. And before I even turned around, I popped out the words, "I don't work here." I can hear the woman clearing her throat again. And as I turned around, there before me was a living meme, every inch of a Karen. She then screeches at me, "You help that old woman, so don't you try to tell me that you don't work here." I say to her, I helped her because she asked politely for my help. You're being rude to me right now, so you can just toddle off and take care of your own shopping. I don't work here. I then went back to my shopping, ignoring the screeching and the yelling, and she followed me the whole time screaming for a manager. A worker then approached us to see what was going on, and that's when Karen yelled, not asked, full-on yelled at her to get a manager immediately. The worker scuttles off, not wanting to deal with an irate customer to find a manager, and it didn't take long for a manager to show up. That's when Karen starts yelling how I was rude to her, refused to help her while at work, blah blah blah. When she was informed that I'm just another customer, that's when she went crazy. She got much louder, insisting that I do work here, and she saw me helping someone else. It was then she made a huge mistake. So I turned and stepped a few feet away to grab something I was getting, when she screeched and charged after me. The woman made a grab for me, screaming that I need to be punished for not being her servant at the moment, and that's when I dodged her and stepped aside, letting her rush past me. When she did, she tripped and she fell flat on her face, and she did not get up. I never even touched her, she did this to herself. Now, if that was the end, you know I wouldn't have posted here, but by the time she started to stir, the police and an ambulance had been called. The police arrived first, within 5 minutes, so they must have been nearby. They were checking her over as best as they could, without moving her, when she starts stirring and trying to get up. Of course, she tried to say that I shoved her and assaulted her, but the manager was there and told them what happened and they would view the security footage. Karen was a mess too. There was blood all down her front, probably from a broken nose or teeth. I wasn't handcuffed as I was being calm and not angry. If anything, I was concerned for her. The paramedics arrived shortly after and they did their thing and hauled her off on a gurney. The last thing she yelled is that she's suing everybody in the store, very loudly and very rudely. And that's when I pointed at the ceiling and said, "There's security cameras. Good luck with your suit." The police took a look at the security footage, got my name, address, and phone number, and they sent me on my way. And I'm just puzzled at how nearly everywhere I go, someone thinks I work there. Most people are polite and even apologetic when informed, but some, they make shopping or getting out a hilarious and annoying adventure. My goodness guys, a Karen knocking herself out while trying to attack OP is instant karma right there. And I just love how she did that to herself and she still tried to play victim saying she was attacked. Like, come on lady, there's cameras all around and there's people saying you tripped on your own feet. And I just want to say I would love to see that camera footage. So this happened in Australia a while ago. For context, in high school and all through university, I worked at a mom and pop hardware store, so I do know my way around hardware. Also, please note that in our big box hardware stores, there is not much customer service. Most staff are there to check on stock levels, stock shelves, and attend the cash register. The staff that are there to help people are always occupied helping people, and they're in short supply. So on this day, it's a Saturday, and I need some plumbing supplies. I'm in one of the most intimidating aisles for a lot of people. It's got all the copper, tap, and toilet fittings. I've got all the items I need, and I've been here a good 20 minutes. I can see an older gentleman struggling and trying to work out what he needs. I catch his eye, and he waves me over enthusiastically. I grab what he needs for a leaky toilet and instruct him on how to install it. He then thanks me and leaves. As I'm about to leave, another old gentleman waves at me and he asks me for help. I show him a direct replacement for his tap washes and then proceed to show him a ceramic fitting that basically makes sure that he never has to replace washes again. He balks at the price, but I convince him to get it. Plus, he gets a senior's discount. And that's when a wild Karen appears from behind me. She's as silent as a mouse, but mousy she's not. She's dumpy, middle-aged, big bushy brown hair, and a face that was caked in makeup. The woman screeches at me, "Oi, you! I want these items." As I turn, she shoves a list in my face. Now, if she smiled at me, asked me politely, I would have happily helped her. But no, not with that attitude. So I smile, politely decline and say, "I'm sorry, I don't work here," indicating my clothes. I've got a blue shirt on, blue cargo shorts, and staff wear red and green. So I turn and proceed to leave, and that's when Karen reaches out her claw-like hand, and she tries to grab me to turn me towards her, but I slip out of her grasp. She then screams at me saying, "You effing helped him. You work here, so don't lie to me." I say to her, "Hey, I don't work here, but I'll let the counter know that you need help, and they will send someone along." I then make a hasty retreat at this point, but Karen's hot on my tail, screaming at the top of her lungs, calling me racist names at this point, and claiming that I'm being sexist for not helping her. The whole time I've ignored her, and she's getting more angry. She tried a couple of times to get a hold of me, but I've struggled it off. Once of which, she loses her footing and trips, and this enables me to get the heck out of there. I can hear her lumbering along my heels, screeching like a velociraptor. And that's when a member of staff intercepts Karen and asks her to stop screaming. Karen then points to me, starts ranting about me, calling me names, and making up a story about me being rude, racist, and assaulting her. Clearly, as soon as she says assault, the situation has now escalated, and she's in for a very big surprise. The store employee turns to me and rolls her eyes. She knows this is gonna be a long one, and I do too. I then turn to the old gentleman and tell him to get in line because this is gonna be a while. He tells me it's fine, that I'll need a witness. So security gets called and I have a quick conversation with the manager and relay the events that have unfolded. The old man relays the same thing, and I also indicate that there's multiple security cameras around the place. I then ask the manager if she can remind Karen that there's multiple security cameras around. So the police get called anyways because she kept demanding them, and unlucky for her, there's a patrol car in the parking lot. They isolate us and do a quick interview. So I'm chilling in the office, and that's when officers come in and say that they've reviewed the tapes and ask me if I want to press any charges. I declined and they let me go. The manager's waiting for me and walks me to the checkout and lets me know that Karen's getting a lifetime ban from the store. I pay for my plumbing supplies, and as I'm walking to the exit, I see old fella sitting on the bench. He gets up and he asks me if I want a sausage. We have a good laugh over sausage with onions and a Coke, and I offer to come over and help fit the tap washes for him, and we organize a time for tomorrow morning for me to drop by. He actually only lives a street away from me. So as I'm getting in my car, Karen emerges with the cops and the manager. Karen looks distressed, but at least she's not in handcuffs. I know she's not got many options, so I drive by as she's talking to someone on the phone, and I wind down my window and say, "Hey, you see that place across the road? They're a trades plumbing supply store. If you go there and don't be a bitch, they will have everything on your list." Guys, I love how after all that, OP still tries to help her out. And honestly, I don't know about you guys, but if someone called the cops on me and was wanting to throw me in jail for something I didn't do, I don't think I would have passed on pressing charges on that person. I think OP was a little bit too nice there. So this happened about 5 years ago. Now, I had worked at this exact store previously, so I was familiar with how their system worked. On this day, it was me, a Karen, and the sales assistant. I was waiting in line at a well-known bookstore in my local mall, buying a card and gift wrap. Karen was in front of me, and she was arguing with a boy at the register because she wanted to know if they had a book in stock. The book was in stock, but only available when ordered from the online store, as it was old and no longer being sold in store. So Karen would need to purchase it herself online. She'd have to order it online and pick it up in the store. And Karen, however, seemed to think that this meant she could order the book in and she would be able to pick it up the next day. Now, of course, that's not the case. Thus, the argument begins. I hear her say, "Well, can't you just order it in right now?" The employee tells her, "Sorry, the system doesn't allow us to do that." Karen says, "Yes, it does. I've done it before." The employee tells her, "Sorry, since the company's under new ownership, all stores are separate now, including the online store." Karen says, "It's the same company. You're just being lazy. Just do it." Again, he says, "I'm sorry, you're gonna have to order it online." They went back and forth for a couple of times before I finally speak up and say, "He's right. That's not how the system works." Hearing me say that, Karen turns around, glares at me and says, "Do you work here?" I tell her no, I did work here over a year ago. That's how I know the system works. Karen tells me, "If you don't work here, shut up. Where do you work?" She then proceeds to look over my clothes for a name tag or uniform logo. And I tell her, "Nope, nice try though." Karen again asked, "Well, where do you work?" I tell her that's none of your business. Karen says, "Yes, it is. Your employer should know how you behave in public. You are rude." Hearing her say that, I'm actually pretty surprised. I tell her, "Actually, that's not how the world works, lady." At this point, you could see the rage building inside her as she realized that she has no power over me. I then noticed at this point that I was in a unique position. I could call this lady out for basically being an a-hole and there's nothing she could do about it. Or so I thought. The woman with a huge smug look on her face then says, "Well, you probably don't even have a job. You look broke." Now, she was obviously trying to bait me into starting something with her so she could rage. And I tell her, you can think what you want, lady, but at the end of the day, I'm not the pathetic person whose only sense of control in the world is threatening a person's livelihood to get what they want. You know you're a crappy person, right? The Karen is absolutely fuming at this point as she storms off. I then proceed to pay for my card and my gift wrap while having a laugh at the register. Now you would think that this is the end of my encounter with Karen, right? But oh no, she still thinks I work inside the mall. So as I leave the store, I stop and get a coffee at the small kiosk cafe just outside. And that's when I notice that Karen's watching me. And I kid you not, this psycho continued to follow me into every single store I entered and asked the person behind the register if I work there. At this point, I was thinking I can't go back to my car because she'll get my license plate number or something, and then she'll stalk me. I ended up calling a taxi and going to see my dad, who lived about 10 minutes up the road, and got him to take me back to my car an hour later. Yeah, so I think I would have gone and found mall security at that point, guys, and told them I was being followed by this crazy lady. Like, some people truly have nothing better to do with their lives than to stalk a random person trying to get them fired. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I hope you didn't shake your heads too hard, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'll link it right here. It's an r/pro revenge. It's been a while since I've done that, guys, where a teacher tries to fail OP on purpose and he gets his life destroyed. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.